Hi everyone and welcome to this webinar about news in Naviate Traffic. My name is Thomas Nilsson and I also have Caroline here. We will be showing both news and existing functions. I will start with some focus on signs and sign holders, and Caroline will take over after about half an hour and show marking features. So please ask questions as we go along, and we'll try to answer either by typing or maybe also in the demo. So I will start actually with a standard function from Naviate Infra or Road, because in the blocker library that we have there, we have added a folder for traffic islands, Swedish here, refug, traffic islands. I'm just going to show how I project that object onto my road design. So I'm going to snap to my alignment and rotate it along my corridor, and it's automatically projected to my surface. It's built with solids. These are one of the Swedish standards. I will lift it a little bit just so we see that the how it looks here, so we can see that, yeah, it's solids, it's rendering, it's a 2D representation as well. I'm going to play with this or work from this one, this traffic island. My first thing will be to show actually some cross markings, just to make this look nice together, and also to show some of our American attendees here. We had a discussion with some of you that are joining this meeting, how to create a colored bike crossing in the US settings. I wanted to show that and some other features in here with the crossing. I'm going to pick that crossing there, and I'm going to create it perpendicular here and the rotation like that. Now I forgot to project it to the surface. Notice that we can either edit any object actually, or use the set surface command that can set multiple objects to a new surface. So I want to project that one to the corridor top. And it looks like this. So we can fix those there. Caroline will move in more to those, but each of these lines is a certain pattern, and that's why we have 5 different lines creating this pattern, because it's a green line in the middle, it's a varying green and white pattern here, which actually is a white pattern and a green pattern. That's why it's 4 or 5 rows. I'm going to shift over to a Swedish setting, pedestrian crossing and bike crossing, according to the same standard as this traffic island. And we'll see how that one fits nicely together with this one. And I just want to repeat this to show if I accidentally pick the wrong insertion point, or actually direction point. So I will place this one perpendicular to that one. I'll accept the default, and you'll see that it's on the opposite side. So what I need to do is to change the direction here, and I will be able to get it to point to the correct side. I might say that we, in next version, we are going to add the possibility to preview while we're in the dialogues. So yeah, this is to make this look a bit good. I will continue with signs, and I'll actually start off with this thing here, traffic sign folder. If I click on that one, it's going to open the directory where my traffic signs are. I'll be coming back to this one because these folders are used in the software. So I'll insert a sign holder. So a sign holder is anything that can hold a sign. And I am going to first look at these folders that we have. So you notice that I have the Swedish different categories, and each category here, as you see, is a folder in the traffic signs folder. Notice that I also have US test there. So if I go to that one, there it is. Those folders contain DWGs, which contain which should contain polylines and hatches, and it's the hatches that we create solids from to create the 3D representation of the signs. So let's look at the sign holders. The list here, these sign holders are also kind of objects. So coming back to my traffic folder, I have sign holders, and each sign holder is a settings file here that I create using the additional settings here. I make the settings I need. I'll be coming back to this one, explain more afterwards, but it's a combination of blocks or a top view, section view, that is the projection of the settings you've made. So let's see something first. I'll select the template one sign. I'll pick a sign saying we should drive on the right side of this traffic island. Notice that it says size parameters read from a JSON file. So every time I insert a file, we save the last used setting. I'll be coming back to this one soon. I'll insert it. I'll zoom in. It says select a polyline or alignment to align to. I'm going to select my green alignment there. And notice that it shifts direction of the sign depending on which side I'm on. I'm now going to snap to the center of my circle, which is showing where signs should be placed in this one. I can now select the direction or press enter to accept the default direction. And I can place this one here, and if I press enter, I will have the same direction as this one here. We recently now, in this version, added the drop down here. I think copy sign holder, I think we had previously, but we added move sign holder, rotate sign holder, and move sign and erase sign. Basically, these move and rotate commands and erase shifts the group selection setting, because when you want to edit the sign holder, you want it to be a group, but so if select as group is on, I'm selecting this as a group. If select individual, I'll select anything individually. So I can now edit anything, any sign, move sign, but to move the or rotate the sign holder, I go here, it turns on the group selection, and I'll select that one. I select the base point, reference, maybe select to rotate that one to 0, and it's up. Okay, moving into the sign holder manager, I quite often jump into that one to edit the settings in here. Immediately, if you've used this, the previous version, you now notice that we have an arrow here. That arrow displays the clearance of the sign. So there is a new column down here, which is clearance. And if I change that value to 2, it's going to be 2 meters compared to the reference surface, the lowest point. Notice now that as I changed the position of my sign, my pole is now sticking up. a new setting here we added, adjust to highest sign, which will always adjust the highest value, elevation top, to be the height of the sign. So if I edit anything here, maybe change that one to 2.1, everything adopts. And to get this working in the section view, there is a specific setting for the sign holder, Y scale from height. So we compare this and make sure that it works. Also, we have, actually, I'll do some addings first here. I'll be back to what I thought. So I'll add a sign. So I'm going to add a sign on the back side here. And notice that if I select a sign that I have used, it's going to say size parameters read from a JSON file that stores these settings for that one. This one I haven't used before. Now it's going to take the last used settings I used actually for that one. If I select a new sign which doesn't use the same settings, I could actually click on this one here, which is the sign size table. These look different depending on the local market. This one, you might notice if you've used this one before, it always collapsed to default. Now it remembers the setting, so I can find my way, find my category, find my sign, and select if I want to have a normal or maybe a large size, and so. I'll select the normal one, and that one will be saved when I use it. So I'll insert it, and I snap to the bottom of the other sign, but I want it to be on the other side, and that's why I do invert. So now it's on the other side. You can see that there as well. And this also, these things work together. So one of the news is this feature here, because we noticed that users had problems understanding how we did the pivot of the signs on the other side. Because so we're pivoting the signs on the back side around the top of the sign holder, which means if this is higher than the highest sign, there's a gap, which might be confusing. So using this one here solves this perfectly. I'll add another sign, and this is also some news here. I'm going to use some extra reflexes, actually, a sign holder reflex, X10 from the Swedish settings. And I'll show how this one works. So I'll insert it. I'll actually insert it in the bottom first. I will then move it maybe up 50 centimeters like that. Notice that this one now actually is a 3D block. I'll be coming back to show this, but this looks kind of neat. It surrounds the sign completely. Next, I'll do the copy sign holder. Select an existing sign holder like that. Select the alignment to follow. And select the new insertion point being the center there. Accept the rotation, insert the new rotation there, 0 rotation there. Of course, now you notice that there is a lot of text. Depending on the settings that you have, these attributes are displayed or not. A new thing for this version is that I can change the position of those attributes individually. So if I drag it here, I can move them individually as I wish. If I don't want to see them, they are on a certain layer. I will turn to the, I know that this layer is in the Swedish. So as you see, I'm using a kind of mix between Swedish and English settings. As we know, there are different languages here. Yeah, so turning off the attributes like that, no problem at all. And moving is new, as I said. Okay, I will look at some other features actually in the sign holder manager. So I will address this one here. So remember, yeah, and I noticed that Håkan, I saw you're on the list. You had some requests about how we organize the signs according to elevation. You wanted the lowest sign to be on the most left. This is an issue if we would do that when we come to the portals or gantries. What we did was we allow you now to drag. So we can drag to make sure that the lowest one is at the most left. Another comment I believe you had was also how to edit these values. And we have added a new feature in here so we can actually calculate inside here, because it was a bit tricky to pick stuff and so if I want now, I can copy anything in here, maybe elevation top from that one, and paste it to the elevation bottom of that one, which will move the signs, as you see. Also, I am able to calculate, I'll just reset that once it looks good. We can calculate, so the elevation bottom from this one, if I want to lower that one 10 centimeters, I can type minus 0.1 and it's moved down. So it's a bit easier. We can copy, paste, and calculate inside of these columns. Also notice that when I hover over, there are some where I can pick. So I need to not have focus on any entry. And when I see that icon appear, I can click and I can now slide it instead in the drawing snap if I want to, or just pick a new position. But notice that that one requires that I'm not in the focus of an entry. I need to leave that one. Now it appears. Okay, next thing here is working with status. A request that we got was this status here we want to have also for signs. So that's new. We can add status to sign. However, if I want to create, so let's say I want to have that one, I believe, say that this one is it should be that one. This one is an existing sign, Swedish befintlig. Now this is only a setting. It doesn't do anything else, but it appears in reports and tables. If I want this to be a variant, because quite often existing signs we want to have gray, black and white or gray, then we create a variant. Make sure to select the one you want to create a variant from. I believe it's that one. Come on, there. And I now am able to type layer and name suffix, which means we're going to create a copy of that sign with the name underscore bef for existing and the same for layers created for that one. We can hide the layers if we don't want to see the hatching, or I just accept it. And now you notice that that one is now gray, and that depends on the layer settings. So it's placed, I'll just make a short presentation or show you the layers. So if I would scroll down to where we know the layering of these different hatches are, we can see that I have a lot of BEF for the existing layers, and those have other colors. So you can control how you present that. So that's status and variant. Okay, any questions, Caroline, so far?
I think I've answered all the questions, so it shouldn't be a problem.
Lovely, lovely, thanks. Okay, so now, very briefly, direction signs. We're not going to focus on this functionality, but what I want to show how to work with this. And notice that I changed drawing when I went into direction sign. I will type it, we'll call it my sign, and I'll create from a template. I'll select one of our Swedish templates, a more complicated one, maybe that one. And I will not do anything with that one. There we are. I'll just save it. And when I save this as a traffic sign, notice that I have the folder here that it's found where I'm using or where I have my where I've set up my traffic signs to be. And once again here we see the different folders that actually are in my signs folder. I'm going to export to my exported guidance signs here or direction signs. Notice the new text here. An exported traffic sign with the same name as the current direction sign cannot be used in the same drawing. And that's why I shifted drawing. So we've noticed that people are trying to create direction signs in the same drawing as you're doing your traffic sign plan. And that is not a correct workflow if you name them the same when you export them. Then we have two blocks that actually are different in the same drawing, and it just gets messy. So our recommendation is always create your direction signs in another drawing, export them to your folder and use them there. So I'm coming back to this one here now, and I'll zoom out a little bit there, and I'll insert a new sign holder, which is going to be, let's see, so I'll use my exported, that's my sign. I'll use normally size 1, and I will use a gantry. I think I'll use that one first. I'll be playing around with this one a little bit. Insert, as it's a gantry with more than one pole or column, I'll select to insert it center along the alignment. I'll slide it, insert it there, accept the rotation, position it to my side with no rotation there. And there it is. I'll go into my sign holder manager and tweak this one a little bit. And I will, so let's see, I'll go to the additional settings. I just want to show a few things here. So in the sign holder settings, you can notice that we have settings for how to present it in 2D, it's there, how to present it in section, which is there, and how to present it in 3D, which is here. So you can have either a block or a top section view and extrusion. So those now are actually all on how it's actually designed, but you can use the fixed block if that's how you want to present it. And you have foundation if you want to have that. So let's just try one edit. I'll make this one a circular instead of rectangular. And you can see that that one changes. Also notice if I would select the 3D representation to be a block, I can select like any block here. And I know I have some 3D elements in here. Let's see. I have a, which one was it? Yeah, up there. Road. I think I wanted a traffic. Road light. There. Then it's a block. It's a road light block. So anything there, we can actually select. You can draw a 3D object and have it there. And another interesting thing, a pole truss. This is a template instead. And there you can see that one, and adjust to highest sign, and it goes to the top. Let's go to the the gantry truss, which in Swedish would be portalfackverk. This one we have changed. Previously, this one was a fixed 3D block. Now, this one is actually using the settings in here. So we are using a 1x1 block. We are calculating, comparing these sizes here with the elevation, which means it's actually now dynamic. So if I want to change this one to be 10 meters, I can do that. It's first going to be 1 meter and then now 10 meters there, or even maybe 12 meters, and you see it adopts. And here we see the clearance. I think I'll turn off that one. I'll set the clearance to maybe 5.5, and it changes the sign. 5.5, come on. Okay, so a few other features. I'll add a sign. And another new thing here is 3D signs. I'll add a traffic light. And we insert it as usual in the section view. I'll place it on one of the columns there. It appears there, as you see. And I'll add another thing. I'll add a digital sign, a digital board. Insert that one as well. I'll insert it there. And it appears there. And we see all of the clearance here. And here we can see that the lowest sign doesn't have to be the leftmost. Now it's more convenient that my lowest sign is actually here because it's the rightmost. And that's why we didn't want that the lowest sign was automatically placed to the left. So these signs that I've been working with here, these are now 3D objects. And depending on how you create them or add them, we can actually either have just a 3D object, or we can, so let's go into the sign and the 3D signs. We actually have a combination that kind of works like if you used multi-view blocks. We're using the same technique. So in here, we see that this is actually the 2D sign that's placed on the section view. If I go into the multi-view folder here, I will find a 2D or 3D representation in here. So we can see that there is the traffic light, red, yellow, green, the 3D representation of that one. So we combine them if they exist, which makes us or gives us a total control of these things here. Okay, I feel like I need to wrap up. I have a few things I want to show. As I mentioned, Caroline, I'm going to exceed my half hour. I think I have a few minutes left compared to the startup, but yeah. So first thing, tables. I want to go to the sign report, create a traffic sign report. One of the new things here is we have an all signs option, so we can click all signs. And oh, that's something happened here. And I've done it a few times today. I'll try it once more. Question is what I've done wrong here now. All signs? No. Something has happened. Okay. First time for me, and that's of course the first time for everything. Luckily, I did prepare a few things. In this command, we also added new features to create or to sort the tables, so they are in there as well. Well, what I wanted to have happen, of course, is that I got a table in here, so I'll need to explain now. So creating, when I create the report or the table and insert it, we have the update traffic signs. And if I've selected the all signs option, if I click update, if I add signs and then click update, those signs will be added to the report. I also want to talk about these things here, export table and blocks to image. So exporting the table, after I've inserted that, I can export to CSV file, but that won't include the blocks. So we have a special routine to create blocks. And luckily I did prepare a few things here. So what's going to happen is if you save the table, it's going to be a stupid CSV like this. I'll open that one in Excel, and the workflow now is to maybe paste this one.
And now Thomas has completely disappeared. We'll see if we can get him back. He sometimes has issues with his network, so we'll see if he's just freezing a little bit and we'll get him back. I'm assuming I'm not the only one who has stopped hearing Thomas. But everything has frozen for him. It was Word that was the last straw. Yeah, then at least it's not just me. Yeah, everyone has lost Thomas. We'll see if we can get him back. Usually when his Wi-Fi goes down, it's a matter of just switching over to the other one, and he'll be back. I'll give him just one minute, otherwise I'll take over and run into my area, and we'll see if he comes back on. There's always, you know, the demo ghost that comes in and messes with us. Yeah, I'll take over. The final thing that he was going to talk about is the tables, and I'm actually going to do a little bit about tables as well. So you'll see how it looks, but I'll just let's see. It's moving again. So is it back? I'm not hearing anything.
Can you hear me, Caroline?
Yes, now you're back.
How long was I gone for?
Well, a couple of minutes. We ended where you opened the Word document. So Word is the devil.
Aha, okay. So you didn't see my creation of the table?
Nope.
Okay. Then I'll go back there and just show how I, from the exported images, can drag any sign in to the Word file, hopefully. That one isn't working either now. I'll do that one again then. Drag it in, drop it there, and resize. So that's the purpose of exporting the images, creating the CSV, dragging them in to create the Word file. Okay. I might need to restart. So Caroline, will you take over and show your stuff, and I'll be coming back to show the new elevation check feature.
Yep, I will take over.
Were there any questions?
No, just a question about InfoWorks, that all these updates from Signs should work in InfoWorks as well, but I think they do. We don't have anything that doesn't work in InfoWorks.
Not that we know of. No.
Should be good.
Okay, thanks.
Yes. Then I will make myself presenter and take over, and I will show you my screens. Let's just see. Yep, now you can see my Civil 3D. So what I'm going to show you, as we said, we're going over to the other side of our traffic, and that is our markings functionality. I'm going to show you how the markings functionality works. I actually did a sign just to test some things that Thomas was talking about, so that's just a base that I have here. But I'm actually going to talk about our markings. So first of all, I just want to say that all these commands, Thomas showed a lot about our 3D, and it is, I mean, we talk a lot about our 3D, but you don't really need to have a 3D view. These commands work fine if you just do a 2D plan as well. And I'm actually going to show you a lot with the 2D. You'll see my 3D model on the side, but I will focus on the 2D representation for a while. And you'll see how the 3D model will be populated along it. But I'm going to start by our line markings. So these are 4 different types of markings that we're using, and some of them are overlapping each other, and some of them are very specific. To make it easy, we can say that line markings work along lines. We have to have a predefined line. In this case, I have an alignment. Cross markings I draw on my own. Area markings fill an area, so think of it as a hatch. And lane markings is a block DVG that we're draping on top of our objects. So as I said, we're going to see pedestrian crossing with both these. I'm going to show you 2 different versions of doing pedestrian crossing, but I'm going to start by line markings. And as I said, line markings work on a line. It could also be a polyline. It doesn't have to be an alignment. And then I have my templates here. And same thing as with Thomas, I have different templates, and I have both the UK template right now, and I have my Swedish template as well. So I have a sort of a duplicate library system right now, just to show you everything that we have. So select the template, you have the settings down here, but I'm actually just going to do OK so we can see how it looks. Because as soon as I do OK, I will see the plan view, and you also see it here in my 3D. So you can see the markings in the 3D view over there. So it's actually creating these markings for me. It's the same command if you want to edit it. So if I do line markings again and I select my line marking, I come back in and I can edit it. And we are working on doing a preview, which just makes it so much easier to do the changes in here and then preview the changes before you leave the dialog. So it just makes sense to have that. But right now I need to leave the dialog box and then restart it every time I do some testing in here. So if I change to something else, if I do a warning line, for instance, I need to do OK. What I'm actually going to change here, I'm going to change the to station, because right now the marking will travel all the way along my line. I actually want this to stop here where I'm going to do a go style in a little bit. So I'm going to use the to station here, and I'm going to select an end point for my marking. And then I'm just going to get a ending there. Click OK, and the marking will be updated. And you see that I also changed the template. That is why I got a different type of marking. If I now start the command again and select the same line, it will recommend that I should start where the other one stopped. But I'm going to start a little bit ahead of that. So I'm going to select a point here and just say start there instead. What we also can do is I can do multiple lines. If I do a duplicate, you can see that you can have 2 lines that are traveling on opposite side of the line that I selected. So we have offset over here. But what I can also do, if I go back to my warning line, for instance, I can use the mirror line setting. So if I say that this one should be a offset 0.1, and then I use the mirror line setting to get a duplicate on the other side. So I get the same line, but on 2 different sides. If I do these changes and I wanted to create this type of line again, I can save this as a template. So if I use the plus sign over here, I can save this as a template. I'm just going to set it as Tiger, just to know that it's mine. Click OK, and that means that the next time I can see that I created this before. So I have all these different line templates that I want to use. And this is the same for all the different markings that we are having, that we have these templates over here. Click OK, and then I get my line. And now I have these mirror lines that I'm working with. So cross markings is where we draw it on our own. Thomas showed a little bit about this, and I'm going to go into a little bit more detail. But for cross markings, it's all about drawing your own. And the command starts by you can either edit it, the same thing as with everything else. You can edit also with the command. But otherwise, it's the same procedure. You have your template on top, you have your different lines here, and then you have your settings at the bottom. So it's very similar, all of these. So if you know one, you can sort of figure out the rest. I'm just going to click OK, and I'm going to do a giveaway line here. And I actually don't need to have these as just one line. I can do a little bit of a skew here on it. So I want this give way to line to sort of have an angle in it. And once I have selected the points that I'm going to do for my line, the next question is the direction of the marking. So perpendicular is probably the most common one, where we have it perpendicular to the line that we drew. So I get this marking like this. And the same thing if I do a stop line, for instance, it just makes sense to have it as a perpendicular. So if I do it over here, I can do my stop line and I'll get the direction to be perpendicular. But it doesn't have to be perpendicular. And a good example for this, if I do cross marking again, is if I do a pedestrian crossing. Now for pedestrian crossing, the main thing here to remember is that we can have a wide width. So in this case, width here is 2.5. And width, if you look at the image on top, is the width of the painted area that we have there. So in this case, I'm just going to do a line across here. I don't want to have my snaps active. I'm just going to do a little bit of tilt for the line over there. And then with the direction, I'm actually going to do it I'm going to do it along the road. And then you can see that you can have the pedestrian crossing across the road. But we can also do pedestrian crossing with area marking. If we have sort of a irregular shaped area where we want to have the pedestrian crossing, then we can use area markings. Area markings is usually for ghost islands. That's sort of where we started with, but we can also do it for pedestrian crossing. So area markings fill in different areas. So if I select my area here, it's going to be a closed polyline. I also get to select the direction point. So I need to draw a direction point for my markings, and it also needs to be on the longest side. So in this case, it's going to be the longest side of my area here. And I'm going to select the area marking called pedestrian crossing. And I'm just going to click OK, and we can see that it's filling it in. But again, the angle is a little bit off. So in this case, when we edit it, we have the option of just changing the direction. So we don't change the line, we just change direction. And the direction should actually be perpendicular to the area here. So I'm just going to use my perp, and you'll see that it's actually picking up a point that doesn't really exist, but it's perpendicular to the road. And that is exactly what I want. And then we can see, of course, it doesn't work. I've done this a million times during the day, but today it doesn't work. So let's see again. And then we're going to use perp and do it like that. And then I'm going to click OK. There we go. And now you can see I have it perpendicular to the road, and it's filling in my area nicely. So all the way around the bends like that. So two different ways of doing the pedestrian crossing, depending on how you want it to look. And everything, again, if I just go back to my 3D view, you can see this projecting up to my top surface. So everything is created in the 3D model as well. But as we said, area markings, the new thing about area markings that have come in this version is that we can do it from an arc. So it doesn't have to be a straight line. So in this case, I have a ghost island prepared, and I want this to be filled in, and I want the middle line to be this arc in the middle. And that is something that has come in the later version, where I can create select my closed polyline, and then I select an arc down here, and I select, let's see if I got it close enough. You have to select it in the beginning. So I'm actually going to do change direction just to make sure that I actually select it. I need to select it in the beginning of the line to make sure I get the direction of the of the ghost island. Click OK, and then you'll see the get direction like that. So the arc option there is something that is new. Something else that is new is how we handle our labels. So we have label markings up here, and I'm going to go into my line markings actually. I'm going to edit this, and I'm going to show you how it looks over here. So we have a label formula, and the label formula, if I just hover over it, I can see the available fields. So the field here means that it's actually not writing in the name, it's picking up the name here, which means that I'm going to get a label called warning line tiger in this case. So you might want to think about, if you use the name as a formula, think about what you're naming your templates. If you don't want the name, you can of course use the other fields, and you can just have the name be a static value. But that is something that is new, that we can use these formulas, which also means that it's going to be updatable. So if I do I should do label markings. It's selecting the text style and text size. So you get to select that from the start. So I'm just going to accept the text style and text size. And then I select my marking. It needs to be the 2D portion of it, because it's a 2D version. And then I'm going to place my label. You'll see here that it's called tiger in the end, because that is what I selected it to be. I can also do, it's actually turning with my objects. So if I select my pedestrian crossing here, you will see that it's actually being perpendicular to the object that I'm selecting. I can use this, I can change these angles, and this is also something that we change, sort of not what you could do, not the actual result, but the way that you do it. So the order of the command is changed. So if I do relative angle and I say I want this to be 45 degrees, you just see this, it's turned 45 degrees in relation to my object. If I do absolute angle and say 0, it's going to be horizontal. So all depending on how you want this to be placed in connection to your object. And of course, if something changes, if I, for instance, go into my pedestrian crossing, if I update this, again, edit this one and say that this pedestrian crossing should be 4 meters instead, my label preview updates. If I do OK, then my label updates as well. So I get this, it sort of makes sense how they work. I also have a new command called select label. So it's just selecting all the labels in my drawing. If I do all, it's going to select everything. And then open properties so I can change my settings for it. So I can change the text height and stuff like that if I want. So it's just a selection functionality that we're using. So the formulas there are something that is new. What is also new is I'm just going to do a lane marking instead. I skipped over this because it's pretty simple. It's about all the other stuff that you can't really define by the markings, then you use it as a lane marking. So if I just use this one, you'll see I have my stop, I have my symbols, I have my everything that we sort of draw on top of the surface. Otherwise, we have the same kind of settings down here as we are used to with the others that we're doing. So I'm just going to do a stop. I'm going to click insert, and I'm going to place this on my like that, and it's projected same as everything else. And this is a block library that we're using there. So what is also new, well, we did some updates with our markings report. So let's hope this report it cooperates with me. I didn't do it, Thomas. So the markings report here, I don't get any choice in selecting. When you do a markings report for our sign holders, you can actually select the objects. But if you do it for markings, it's just going to select the different types. So I'm just going to say that I need to have this for all of my things. Then I'm going to click OK, and I'm going to place the markings report in my drawing. So I get this like this. It's updatable though. So if I change anything, if I, for instance, realize that, well, I don't want to have both of these as pedestrian crossing, I do remove marking. I'm going to remove my pedestrian crossing, and it's warning me. And please use remove marking, because that removes everything, the 2D, the 3D, and also the intelligence for it. Otherwise, it might come back, which I've sort of realized after a while. And then if I update my markings report, you'll see that I have two pedestrian crossings. If I update my markings report, I would now only have the one pedestrian crossing down there. So I can update this. The only difference here with our sign report is that when I do traffic sign report, if I do all signs, I need to either select the signs or I do all signs. And that just means that it's going to select all my signs in my drawing. Otherwise, the same thing. If I add more signs, I can update this signs report. So they work very similar right now. And they also have this export table and blocks to image. Same thing over here. This is actually something that is coming. I added into our new version that we're working with. So this is something. But something else I want to show you about these tables, if you want to change the content of the table, and it's the same thing with our traffic sign table, in the dialog, when you create your table, you have a cogwheel. And all of these different dialogues have these cogwheels. So make sure if you want to sort of tweak the commands to take a look at the cogwheels, because we sort of try and a bunch of settings that we sort of not use every day, then those we kind of hide behind the cogwheels. So in this case, it's all about how the table is created. And we can also do edit columns. So we can tick, because the first one here, column ID, is where you select which columns should be there. And then you have a display text. So you see that I've translated some of them. But if I also want to translate length, I can go back and say that length should be length in my column. And amount should also be amount. Or I can add anything here. I can say that I want this to be, for instance, if I want to have a shortcut or something like that. So you can decide anything on how you want this to be. And as soon as you save these columns, then they are stored on your computer. So the next time you do this, that means that it will be the same column that you selected right now. So just do OK, click OK, and you have your new column. Same as with I got a question I just saw from Mia there. Remove markings to remove the markings correctly. Same thing with sign holder. If you want to erase a sign holder, make sure you use these commands just to make sure you actually erase it from the database sort of in your drawing, to make sure that it's not stored anywhere. What we also did, actually, we worked with our naming of the sign holders, so it's actually removing all the intelligence as well that you have under here. So underneath the copy sign holder, you actually have sort of a list of resource commands, I would say, maybe here.
And also there, we should clarify that when deleting a traffic sign, it's the section view that you delete. That's the one that carries the intelligence.
Yeah. So if you do erase sign holder, you can remove the whole thing.
Yeah, then everything is removed. If you remove the 3D object, you just remove the 3D instance.
Yes, I think that was it. I don't think I have anything else for markings. If you wanted to finish off with the final thing, Thomas.
Yeah, I'll do that. I'll be sharing once again. So I'll make myself presenter.
I will say while you do that, this is recorded. I don't think we mentioned it before, but this is all recorded, and you will all get an email with the link to the recording, and the recording will be on naviate.com as well. So if you want to go back and just see everything again, you're free to do that afterwards. So it will be published during this week. It might take a couple of days, but you'll get the recording for this as well. Good.
Yep. So I restarted, and I believe you see my screen. Yes. This is the table after I restarted. That one came out nice and clear, and any addings or removings of signs will reflect in this table as I've set it to reflect all signs. So coming back to elevation check, this is a brand new command request from some customers, how to be able to, let's see if I can get back my render, how to check the elevation of different signs. You notice that we have the clearance in the sign holder manager, but sometimes when signs are on your side here, there are different rules, so we created a new command. So this one, you can either select the signs in the sign holders in a list, or you can click here to select the sign holder by in the drawing. You can also click zoom to right click in here and do zoom. It's going to zoom to the sign, and if it's 3D, it's going to zoom that one in 3D like this. So coming back to the dialog. So after selecting the sign, I want to pick a reference point, and the reference point I typically it starts from the insertion point of the sign holder. It allows you to select a reference point, which is quite often perpendicular to a road edge, maybe the edge of pavement or something. I'll do a perpendicular to that one there, the paved surface there. I'm going to do a zoom again to make sure I see the complete sign here. And no, there, okay. So notice the arrows appearing here, and those are the offset inside and in elevation. And I didn't want to check that one, I want to check that one, and you see changes. We have different rules, so we should have some American or so or UK in here. Question is what I did to release that one. Okay, so let's try this one here. So those rules are basically settings down here, and all you need to do is tweak these settings to another rule, and you click save here, and you can create a new setting for that one. I will start backwards. I'll do the edit down here just to show, because this one says it's too low here. The elevation clearance is 1.46. It needs to be at least 1.6. So if I click elevate, notice that the signs are moved up, and now as I have elevate all signs, both signs were elevated, and it's now cleared. But I have the distance as well that we can see is not long enough. It's 1.7. It should be between or exactly between 3 and 3 meters, so exactly 3. And then we have move sign holder, which is going to move it from the reference point. So if I click move sign holder, it's moved out here, and now it's elevated as well. It still works actually, yeah. So it's 1.78, so the rule is still there. Notice that I can still edit things if I want to. So if I want to lower maybe only that green sign, I can select that value there, paste it here, even though, so if it's a red value, it's automatically copied here. If it's okay, I can copy any if I want to, and I click elevate, and it's just going to affect that specific sign. So this one makes it far more easy than doing this by doing distances and so in here, and you can just move on to the next sign. I noticed there I got the question about how to insert the traffic islands. Let's see if I can have the rendering back, please. There. In this case, I actually only used a block library. So we created the different blocks for Swedish, a certain set of Swedish standards. So actually it's the standard for Gothenburg city. Select to project it. So this is a standard function we have to insert blocks in different ways and project to surfaces and so. So that's why I snapped to the alignment like that and rotated it along like this. Turn on the snap. I should mention that we are, now this one is a bit tricky because it's a very big slope in this area. So of course it depends on, it should be a bit flat to look nice in when it's these fixed ones. But I'll let you know that we are working on a certain feature to allow us to more completely create these from any kind of shape. So hopefully next version we will be able to create these curbstones and cobblestone areas with a new feature. Okay, I think we answered the questions, Caroline, or what do you say?
Yes, I think so too.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much for attending. Thanks everyone. See you later. Bye bye.